Hello. This is a podcast where film people film people. This is the first official episode of Film People, and I'm so excited to introduce to you our guest, Tony Alcantar. Tony is a comedy connoisseur. He's an improv king, if you will. He had his start in Second City. He moved from America to Vancouver to pursue his acting career. And now he is an entrepreneur. He owns his own business, dialect coaching, improv coaching, and acting coaching. Tony is amazing, and everything that he has to say is full of wisdom, advice, and just amazing experience behind him. So enjoy that interview. Thank you so much for joining me and being willing to answer my questions.
Well, I like to say I'm willing. I can't wait to hear the questions.
Well, yeah, let's see. Let's see about that. Well, let's start with the first question then,
Sure.
which is how did you discover your love for storytelling? Like, what was the thing that made you be like, oh, I have to do this?
Well, I know that when I was a kid, I was always getting into trouble being the class clown.
Mm,
So I guess I knew there was some value in humor and jokes
mhm.
and writing parody stories. I used to read like Mad Magazine, and I really enjoyed their like jokes about certain TV shows or movies. And I would think to myself, yeah, this is pretty funny. And you just go from there. Surprisingly, I'll tell you the truth,
Mhm.
I wasn't in theater as a kid at all. I
Mm,
wasn't one of these young actor people. I wasn't interested really until my early 20s
mm.
and got into theater. I was more into sports early on.
Okay.
And being from Chicago, which is a an improv hub, I got involved with acting only because of my love of improv, meaning my love of jokes, meaning my love of storytelling from when I was a kid. So I guess that's the answer.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, like always being the funny one. I'm sure people were like, oh, you could be a comedian or something. And maybe you're like, yeah, maybe I could.
Yeah, that's funny. In my eighth grade year, like autograph book,
Yeah.
one of the classmates of mine, Benita Kirschenbaum,
Mm-hmm.
who's out there somewhere in Chicago,
I
she said, if you were if you were Jewish, you'd be a great um you'd be Don Rickles, or you'd be a great competitor for Don Rickles, or something like that. And I'm like, that's pretty funny.
yeah, that's pretty good.
So it did start at least as early as eighth grade, probably before.
Okay. And then, so I guess you knew you wanted to be in like the comedy sort of improv world, but
Yeah.
when you were like, okay, let me try this thing out, what were your goals for your career?
When I was in my early 20s, I joined this improv school in Chicago, and there's a lot of them, but the premier one is called the Players Workshop of the Second City.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Murray went there, Bonnie Hunt, George Wendt. These are big names from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I was going there in the early to mid 80s. And so this was the place to be. And so I started classes there, and I met a girl who was in a number of my classes, and she later became my girlfriend. And she was reading a book about getting into commercials. I was
Mm,
like, commercials. And we took classes together, and I'm like, okay, you got to audition for these things. And well, as you know, there's more steps to just I want to be and then becoming.
yeah.
There's many steps in between.
Yes.
And so she and I got agents, and we do plays together. And so, like many other people, it was a long process.
Mm-hmm.
What were my goals? I must tell you that would have been my downfall, because career wise, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have goals. I just loved doing what I was doing. And when I say a downfall, when you improvise, you're told be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really in the moment. I didn't have ambition to be anything greater than just doing stuff with my girlfriend and the people we were hanging out with and having a lot of fun. And I did not put the goal way down the road and do the steps to get there. Meanwhile, the people around me were moving to LA, the big names now.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Castellaneta, who's Homer Simpson, was in the class that graduated before I did.
Mm.
In the mid 80s, I was doing classes with Steve Carell.
Yep.
We were doing
Huge.
stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
He had his sights on things down the line,
Mm.
clearly, and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I were wiser or more ambitious, I would have been out in LA 40 years ago, but I didn't go out to LA. So
Mm-hmm.
when you ask about the goals, I was just living in the moment and I didn't really have any.
Mm.
That's the truth.
Okay. I mean, every actor in their career is different. And because I'm so new, I'm
Yes.
always, asking these questions. And this is why I love having the podcast format, is because where else do you get to just sit down with people doing what you want to do and talk to them?
Yeah.
And so this is where I get to learn. And I'm a very big goal setter. So for me, I love my goals. But I'm okay with throwing them away if I have to. Because I think
Yeah.
sometimes people get too stuck with these are my goals, they have to happen. And then if they don't, they crumble,
Yes.
or no goals at all. So I find myself in the middle.
You know what, though? I'll tell you this quickly.
Yeah.
I've since learned that if you want to achieve a thing, you've got to set out concrete, sequential uh, markers so you know when you achieve it, or actually you work backwards. The goal is here.
Mm.
How many steps do I have to put, and what are they to
Yeah.
get there? So I guess with age comes wisdom, hopefully. So I've learned, but that being said, I can't kick myself and say
Mm.
those guys in LA, like I'll watch a movie, I'll watch a TV show, there'll be an animated thing and there's the voice of, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll say to myself, or I'll say out loud, oh yeah, out loud, I'll say, yeah, there's so and so, I know her,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't go, oh, if only I did the thing that I should have done.
Yeah.
You can't second guess your life, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's this girl that I went to high school with. Her name is Whitney Peak, and she is now the face of Chanel. And she was in the new Gossip Girl reboot, The Star.
Really?
And she was in Hocus Pocus too. She's doing really, really, really well. And I'm like, oh, see, if she could do it, a small girl from Poco, I can do it
Yes.
too. And when I
Yep.
see her on TV for Coco Chanel, yeah, sometimes I'm like, damn, she got lucky, she got there. But I'm like, but she's just paving the way. So then me, another girl from Poco, can follow in her footsteps and get there with her.
That is a great attitude because if she can do it, no
Mm.
matter what it is,
Yeah.
that means it's possible for you. That's 100% correct.
Yeah.
It's a healthy attitude. It's a can do. It puts your life in your hands, um, which means go for it.
Yeah,
Go for it.
exactly.
Why not?
So, when you were taking your first steps into your career, and this might be what you were saying before is not having the goals, that could be your answer. But
Mhm.
um, what were like your first kind of steps that you took to really, really concrete your career? And
Mhm.
would you advise actors now to do the same thing?
I had my career somewhat ragtag up until I was probably in my 30s. Um, I thought my career was set when I got cast in The Second City
Mm-hmm.
in Toronto. I was doing comedy in Chicago. I wasn't doing it as a full-time thing. Many actors have to do several things.
Yeah.
I made it to the final auditions several years in a row in Chicago, but I couldn't get cast in the company. And I remember saying, I'll just drive up to Toronto and audition up there. Looked
Mm-hmm.
on the map, it's not that far. I drove up there and I got hired.
Yeah.
And I got hired in the Second City in Toronto. I toured with the touring company
Mm.
throughout Ontario, and they flew us out to Edmonton. And so we did shows out there for a comedy festival. And I thought, well, that's my career. I'm on
Yeah.
the way. That's it. Well,
Yeah.
that only lasted 2 years. And all the things that I thought would come, more auditions for TV shows,
Mm.
That stuff didn't happen. That only happened when I moved out to Vancouver.
Mm.
And then the film and TV and voiceover and obviously dialect coaching
Yeah.
really took off after leaving Chicago.
Mm.
That's when it happened.
Which is kind of ironic because so many of us actors in Vancouver try to leave to go to America to
Yeah.
make our careers happen in America. But for you, it was sort of the opposite, which is just kind of like cool because I'm already like, okay, how can I get to America? How can I get to California, to New
Yes.
York? Those are my steps, but I am very lucky to be in Vancouver and not be somewhere else in Canada where the industry is much slimmer than it is here. So, this is a great place to be for actors.
I lived in LA. I was on a show there called American Dreams
Mm-hmm.
in the early 2000s. We did the pilot here. The
Mm-hmm.
producer called me, said, "Hey, I've got a role for you in LA on the show. It got picked
Mm-hmm.
up. Do you want to come down?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come down." He says, "Well, it's only a co-starring role. It's not a big role, but we'll see how it goes." So I went down to LA and found out that unless you've got a guarantee, they're not going to write for your character. So in season one, I was in maybe 5 out of 20 episodes, really thin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it wasn't really happening for me there, but I thought it would. Well, while I was down there, I befriended the local actors there,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, "You're better off, just in general, building your career in Vancouver to come here
Mm-hmm.
because we're fighting for scraps down here
Mm-hmm.
and we're not working." He says, "You guys in Vancouver are getting roles that we're not getting because stuff is being shot up there." So
Yeah.
back to what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
if you can build your resume in Vancouver to court that LA manager or agent, a lot of agents in Vancouver now have partnerships
Mm-hmm.
with, well, any agents all over the world, right? It's a
Yeah.
global thing.
Yeah.
So you're right. You can build up stuff here in Canada, right? And then be a more attractive export than someone who's down there and desperate.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'll say this, where you go in America is interesting because there's a lot of stuff filmed or cast out of Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things in New Mexico, and of course they're going to go through an LA agent,
Yeah.
but they might go through an agent in New Mexico.
Mm.
It's not such a separated world.
Mm.
Everything is mixed. You have a good shot here, living here. And I also say to my friends when they're saying, "Should I move to LA? Should I move to Toronto? Should I move to Calgary? Should I stay here?" I ask them, "Where would you rather wait tables?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where would you rather have friends or have no friends?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you have family here, you've got a support. If you've got a significant other, that helps you too. If you've got a community, right? If
Yeah.
you've got a dog like you do."
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Would come with me though. I'm not leaving her. Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes. You must take her.
of course. We're gonna do some rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
They're random questions, but just to get to know you a little bit more. Okay.
Okay. Sure, sure.
Your biggest accent pet peeve?
When watching someone else,
Yes.
ah, um, did no one ever teach you that less is more? Did
Mm,
no one ever teach you that? I'll watch a show and I'll be like, ugh, who had their hand on the wheel of this thing? Less is more. Okay.
okay. The hardest accent to teach?
Is the one you've never heard.
Okay. You're great at it all. What about the hardest accent that you had to learn?
Wow, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I think because I don't see myself as Scottish or Irish
Mm-hmm.
because of my features, there's something about those accents that I think to myself, if I do them or when I do them,
Mm-hmm.
you're phony, no one will believe it. So
Okay.
those are the hardest for me, but I'll tell you a quick story. Do I have a time for a quick story?
You have time for everything.
Okay. So a couple years ago, before they tore down the Oak Ridge Mall, I went in there uh, during Christmas to get something for my wife, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to get her a hat.
Mm.
And, hats are seemingly not in fashion, but I want to get her a cool hat, I don't mean like a baseball hat. I mean like something,
Fancy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I go in there and there's a hat shop in there.
Mm.
And so I go in there and it's very quiet. It's like a weekday, no one's in there. There's two people.
Mhm.
They both work there, and there's this older woman in there. And so I think to myself, I'm going to use my Scottish accent in here. So I start talking to her about getting something for my wife and this, and that, and the other. And I'm really quiet because it's a small shop.
Mhm.
And she says, where are you from? I say, where do you think I'm from? Where do you think I'm from?
Okay, yeah.
And she says, where do you, so I say, yeah, I'm looking for a hat for my wife. And where do you think I'm from?
Yeah.
And she says, Scotland. I said, and so I'm having this little private conversation with her. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, because I was so underplaying this, and I don't look traditionally Scottish,
Yep.
but because I was doing it so casually, she
Mhm.
bought that I was from Scotland.
Mhm.
And
That's
I
so,
thought to myself, hey, if she thinks so, then I could prop that it's the accent is holding me back because I don't believe it. But now I can believe it because she believed it.
mhm.
But to answer your question, the initial question, the Scottish sound, Irish, because I don't up until that point see
Yeah.
myself as such.
Mhm.
But now maybe.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's so funny though. Yeah. Okay, your favorite memory at Second City.
We did a show in where's Wayne Gretzky from? Brampton or Brantford or Bram.
I know
Someone will
nothing
tell
about
you.
sports.
We did a show where Wayne Gretzky is from.
Okay.
Brainerd? No, that's not that's from the movie Fargo. Anyway, we did a show there. It
Mhm.
was a large auditorium.
Mm.
We did a live show, and every joke, every shtick we would be hit with waves of laughter. And
Mm.
I mean waves of laughter, not just shows that you do in a cabaret and
Yeah.
it's sort of like people are drinking and it's ha ha and cackling and when the joke is over they're still tittering because they're kind of drunk and
Mm.
chatter. It's not that.
Mm.
It was a proper theater and we were the main course. I don't
Mm.
know how many thousands of people were there. It seems like thousands. Could have been hundreds. It was definitely hundreds, but it seemed like thousands.
Yeah.
The laughs were like none of us. And we went backstage in intermission. We're like, what's going on? We
Mhm.
were clicking, and it was overwhelming how much we had to stop
Mhm.
to hold for the laugh because the laughter wasn't just immediate. It was waves of laughter.
Wow. That's a
And
rewarding feeling too, though. Like, damn, we nailed it. We're doing good.
we nailed it.
Mhm.
And we nailed it plus tomorrow's show and tomorrow's show. That was unreal. Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that question because I'd forgotten about that moment.
The best advice you were ever given.
Wow.
Tough. Some of these are tough
Yeah,
for rapid fire.
one of them was the one of the producers in Second City
Mm-hmm.
who called me on the carpet. And this advice came to me twice. We were doing a show in London, Ontario. I
Mm-hmm.
was subbing for an actor who I don't know why he was off, but I subbed for a week. I don't remember. And we did an improv at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
It was a musical improv. And so I was singing, and it was at the time where I want to say Terminator 2 came out, or
Okay.
I can't remember what it was. I was doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation,
Mm-hmm.
and I quoted a line from the movie, which was quite blue. It was an off-color thing to say. And
Mm.
that was the chorus of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next day, the producer calls me in the office. Her name was Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, yeah, I heard about the show last night. And here I am, I'm all high
Yeah.
because the show. And she says, Tony, not on my stage.
Oh no.
And I bit my tongue and I said, okay, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Yeah.
And that taught me the pecking order of the business.
Mm-hmm.
You can't throw yourself on the mercy of the boss because the boss knows what the boss wants.
Mm-hmm.
Years later, I was doing a show here in town, and
Mm-hmm.
another producer from LA. I was dialect coaching the whole cast, or no, hold on, the three leads
Mm-hmm.
and a couple ancillary characters.
Okay.
And on the ancillary characters, they needed a particular Spanish accent.
Mm.
And I was under the impression that I could do the job at that point, but it was really short-sightedness on my part.
Mm.
And she asked me, how's it going? And I said something to the effect of, yeah, and they're not going to notice because blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And she said to me, Tony, this show is going worldwide. We
Mm.
need to be more diligent. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought back to what the producer said in Second City,
Mm-hmm.
not on my stage.
Yeah.
And what that meant for me was I had to actually I had to subcontract someone
Okay.
to
Yeah.
help me with that thing
Mm.
to give her what she wanted.
Mm.
And in both cases, I bit my tongue thinking to myself, the boss is always right.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth and do what the boss says and you'll be okay. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a sort of a head thing, not a heart thing.
Mm.
And give the boss what the boss wants. Both
Yeah.
times I shut my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
They were right.
But that's good advice too, because even when a director is telling you notes after you've done a scene, like you as the actor can love what you did, but if it's not what the director wants, you have to adjust to what they want. So that kind of mentality is good.
I've been on shows
Mm-hmm.
where one show in particular, I won't tell you the name of the show.
Okay.
It was literally a guy on this side of the desk, guy on the other side of the desk. They're sitting and talking.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody enters, nobody exits.
Mm.
It's an interior.
Mm.
We're in the studio. We don't have to deal with wind, light, the elements.
Yeah.
The equipment is there.
Mm.
It took 1 hour for a private blocking of the scene.
Oh man.
We're standing around, and I'm dialect coaching on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And the first idea is like, guys, just everyone just go get a donut, go get some coffee, go to Crafty. This is going to be a while. Why is it going to be a while? Because the two actors in this particular show
Mm-hmm.
love to talk about, well, I think, oh,
Oh.
well, but I think, and then the director, well, I think,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's good to collaborate, but generally the director has in mind a thing,
Mm.
lays out the thing,
Yeah.
and then all the departments swoop in and do their thing.
Yeah.
But because they love to luxuriate on the massaging each other,
Mm-hmm.
at
Yeah.
some point someone has to say, are we going to do this or not?
Yeah.
And 1 hour, if you're a producer out there watching this, you know how much an hour costs.
Mm-hmm.
The director of this particular episode was also the executive producer.
Got it. Yeah.
So it's his deal. So if that's what he wants, he's the boss.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
now we'll just sit around for an hour if that's what you want.
Yep. I mean, more money for you at least. You get to just
Yeah, because that means we're definitely going into overtime just
yeah.
based on this hour.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Exactly. Oh man. Okay, what is either the best advice you gave yourself or a quote that you live by, if any?
yeah, just shut your mouth and listen.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth and listen. I have put my foot in my mouth many times. I've acted impulsively. This is in all facets of my life
Mm-hmm.
where it would have been wiser just to shut up and listen.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I tell myself that one too, Tony.
Yeah, the reason I can't go into details because there's so many details.
Yeah, too many
Too
times.
many. Just shut up and listen.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, the most rewarding thing you've done in your career so far.
Well, we just it's coming out this month, Fargo,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which I've done 3 seasons on that.
Yeah.
That is the most rewarding because it's the most exhausting. It's
Mm.
meant that I had to leave my family and go to Calgary
Mm-hmm.
for 3 seasons.
Mm.
It meant enduring brutal cold,
Yeah. Oh,
the
Calgary's.
the heartbreak of being without my wife and my kids,
Mhm.
and I've done it 3 times.
Yeah.
And so and because it's such a great show, the payoff is great.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that's taken the biggest toll on me. But again, it's the most rewarding because everybody knows that show. It's not some obscure show on some nothing network. People
Yeah.
know that show.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I find that extremely rewarding.
How long is the season to film? 6 months?
We yeah, 6 months of filming,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's coming a lot for just for a point of reference.
Yeah.
We started filming in October of last year. It's
Mm.
coming out October of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been in post-production for 6 months.
Yeah. A long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But that's how you know it's good.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay. This is kind of a silly one.
yeah.
Do you think Americans are better actors than Canadians?
Yes.
And tell me why.
Okay. It's rough in the States.
Mm-hmm.
An actor who I work with on a show said to me this. He says, Tony, I'm thinking about coming up here and getting an agent. I go, oh, really? Why? He says, well, I'm down in LA and I've always got to fight traffic to get to where I'm going. And then I'm fighting with my agent. Then I've got to fight with the casting directors. I go, you're going to do well up here because you already told me you're fighting, you're fighting, you're fighting.
Mm.
Canadians up here see fighting as a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I know as an American, in our DNA is fight, struggle, conflict, and fight.
Mm.
And because we know how to fight, we've already sussed out what's at stake. That's why we're fighting. I find with actors up here, they don't really know what's at stake because a lot of things have been given to them. Whether the government has swooped down and written you a check for X, Y, and Z, or wagged the finger, go get your next shot, or just all those government supplied things, which means the fight is not there. It's like always getting breakfast in bed. You're
Yeah.
not going to know how to milk a cow if your breakfast is in bed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this guy, whose name is Rick, I said, Rick, you're going to do well up here because you know how to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I think and this is a stereotypical answer, but you're
Yeah.
asking me a big question.
Yeah.
I think Canadians see fighting as a negative.
Mm-hmm.
They don't fight, they avoid conflict. And if conflict is not the driving force of drama
Mm.
or comedy, whether it's a situation or it's another thing or a person or an entity bigger than you, like the government or nature, if you're not fighting, if you don't see that struggle, you're not going to be a good actor. It is a fight.
Yeah.
So on that basis, I'm backing up why I say what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Okay. I remember you saying something like that in our sessions that we did. And
Yeah.
so that's why I wanted to ask and like really hone in on it cuz yeah, I mean, it's a good point though. It's like being stern and like yeah, Canadians are very submissive whereas Americans are very dominant. And you can tell in the acting sometimes that kind of our personalities come out and it's like we're actors, we've got to act a certain way sometimes. Okay, how did you get into the accent side of the industry and how did you start creating Tony and Associates? Like how did that all happen?
Yeah. Well, I realized I was so surprised that this Canadian accent thing was a big problem with the producers.
Mm.
I did not really know that. I mean, I could hear the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as part of my Master of Fine Arts degree, accents and dialects were something that I did.
Okay.
And I would use that in performances in Chicago, in
Mm-hmm.
the second city. So I was very confident and comfortable doing them.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know there was a way to turn it into a living here until I found out, oh yeah, we need, there's a thing called a dialect coach. I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I went over some of my notes and reworked them to finalize a format that could easily be adhered to. And I threw my name in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that I got hired. In fact, James Gunn hired me
Mm-hmm.
for a movie that he did here probably in 2006, 5 or 6, as one of my first dialect coaching gigs
Oh.
on a movie, on a feature called Slither.
Mm.
And and like anything else, success builds other success.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are good at something,
Mm-hmm.
you can categorize other things, and pretty soon people ask me, how can you do so many dialects? Well,
Yeah.
you categorize them. And once you categorize them, these 5 are in that category. These are similar. Those are similar. Now you know 50 accents, but you can break them down into 3 categories, 4, 5, whatever it takes. And so I was just doing, it was just me.
Yeah.
Then I realized, wait a minute, I need to branch out. I need to get some people under me who can do some work while I'm doing some other work.
Yeah.
And so I started training people who I thought had the qualities to be a dialect coach.
Mm.
It doesn't mean that they were dialect coaches. They had the qualities
Yeah.
to interface with actors in a high pressure situation to make them comfortable to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to be a linguist. You don't have to have a degree in it. You have to be an excellent communicator and exude confidence and get them where they need. Some people need a carrot, some people need a stick.
Yeah.
You need to know
What they need.
what motivates them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I looked for people I knew with those qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore I have the team that I have, and
Yes.
they are great.
Okay, so you did get your start at Second City, like we discussed. How do you think that helped you with your acting? Like, how do you think that
Mhm.
propelled your acting to be good?
Okay. I learned in the Second City in my training, and I was also a Second City teacher and director. So that already did it in between and beyond.
Yeah.
The skills that you learn in the Second City and just improv in general is to be fearless, to go for it, to not stop unless someone stops you. Keep going, keep going. Get those waves of laughter until your director says pull it back.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. It gives you the confidence. So that's number one. Number two, you learn how to play characters strong,
Mm.
because in the Second City, you'll be doing a sketch. The
Yeah.
lights come down, you grab a hat and a coat, and now you're a different character right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's helped me doing voiceovers. It's helped me with doing accents. It really just teaches you to be fearless. Okay. And on a practical note, when I came here from Chicago, I had done some commercials. I had done industrial, like training videos for Walgreens, for Granger, for US Gypsum, for a number of in-house videos.
Yeah.
I think I had done one movie, no real TV shows, but because Second City was on my resume and because I had great write-ups while being in the Second City, it enabled me to get a great agent when I first came to Vancouver. I did a mailing before I actually did my move, and I nailed an agent right away.
Yeah.
And they saw my success in the Second City and other shows that I had done as a good indicator that I would do future success.
Mm.
So the Second City on a resume, like the name Tony Alcantar for
Yeah.
you,
Mm-hmm.
it means it carries, and I'm joking, by the way, it carries a certain standard,
Yeah.
or it leads to an expectation that this person can do it because this person has done it.
Mm-hmm.
Few people don't know the Second City Comedy Club, or in general, just
Mm-hmm.
like few people don't know SNL. You say SNL and they'll go, I get it.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
people don't know Second City, you just go, it's like SNL, only live and funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So 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 it trained me practically and also at a business
Mm.
level.
Would you advise every actor to have improv training?
I will tell you who does. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know who David Mamet is? The playwright David Mamet and director. He won a Pulitzer Prize. Surprisingly, this guy has said in his book, True
Mm-hmm.
and False, which I should get you for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Send me your address and I will get it for you. I
Okay,
promise.
I absolutely will. Thank you.
One of his recommendations is, and I agree,
Mm-hmm.
every actor should take an improv class. He says this. When I was coming up in Chicago, there was this talk about this guy, David Mamet, who had gone out to LA in
Mm-hmm.
the 70s. And he was an improv guy in Chicago. I didn't know if he formally was, but then he worked into a writer and a director, and he's great. Love listening to what he says. I don't know if he has a podcast. I heard him on the news recently.
Mm.
I think he's a good man.
Yeah.
And he says you must, and he doesn't recommend a lot of acting schools.
Mm.
He thinks you should learn the minimal and then just practice. I agree. I tell this to people too. Learn the minimum and go practice like crazy.
Yeah.
Because this way it's in your own hands rather than paying some guru
Mm.
to, like, massage money out of your purse. Because that's what a lot of businesses do. I don't care
Yeah.
if it's an acting school, it could be a plumbing
Mm. Mm-hmm.
operation. Everyone wants your money, right?
Yeah.
But he says you should take an improv class.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've been through it. I've taught it. I've directed it. So much of who I am is from what I've learned
Mm.
in improv classes. My son, who's now getting into acting,
Mm.
I think he should be in improv classes. He's
Yeah.
taken them from me. Have you
Mm-hmm.
met my son?
No, I've not.
Okay, okay. How old are you?
I'm 20.
Okay, he's going to be 16 soon, so he's in the
Okay.
running.
He needs some more years, Tony.
He,
He needs to
well, he's
mature.
okay. Okay, well, just be kind to him.
I will. I'll be nice.
No, I tell him
Yeah.
take an improv class.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great icebreaker. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
fun. So the answer is yes.
Okay, cool. I've done some, but I need to do more. And for me, a few reasons that I need to do it is A, obviously for my acting, but also because I'm a very shy person when it comes to like face-to-face interactions, and improv would help with that. But
You want to know something? And this is funny. The
yeah.
two things that I'm known for teaching are improv and dialects.
Mm.
And in both cases, actors come to me and
Mhm.
they feel an expectation to be blank,
Mm.
to be funny if it's improv, or
Mm.
to have this new sound for an accent.
Mhm.
And I find both cases are really the same thing. Take the shackles off because you are funny normally. I think people generally are really funny. And all we have to do is, and this is an inside track, all
Mhm.
we have to do is take away that anxiety that
Yeah.
we put on our performance anxiety and
Mhm.
just go, I'm just going to be myself.
Yeah.
People are generally funny.
Mhm.
This is why when you watch a movie,
Yeah.
you know what the best part of any movie is? The outtake reels,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
because they're just being themselves.
Yeah.
They are the thing you remember.
Mhm.
I don't care if it's a drama.
Mhm.
There is a movie, probably 1980. It
Mhm.
was Peter Sellers' last movie. He died shortly after that.
Mhm.
The movie was not a comedy.
Yeah.
It was called Being There. He played a very controlled character. It was a critically acclaimed movie. I don't know if it was nominated. Anyway, it turned out to be his last film. At
Mm.
the end of that movie, this is in 1980-ish, the credits are rolling and they show the outtakes of this one monologue that he does. It will crack you up. And I remember watching the end of it going, why are they putting this? Is really funny. It was so different, but they knew
Mm-hmm.
this is this is the real deal. This is
Yeah.
not acting. This is the real deal. So I'm surprised. I think you're a good improviser. I think
Oh,
you
thank you.
have a charming rapport. I've never found you at all like, Tony, don't make me do this thing.
Yeah, the anxiety for me, I can push through because for me when it comes to my personal life, I don't push through. Like I have dreams of, going out and hanging out with friends and like going clubbing and stuff, cannot get through my anxiety to do it. But for my career, because I want it so bad, I will push through. But yeah, personally, it's a weird thing for me. And I've been trying to like get better at it, but we'll see. But with comedy classes, I think because that will push me completely out of my comfort zone and put me in the most anxiety inducing state ever, that if I can get through that, I
Yeah.
should be able to go to a club and do some improv.
Yes. Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Ah,
Which leads me to a movie that you were a part of,
yes.
Best in Show.
Yes.
And I just want to list off the cast so people can understand my question that I'm going to ask. Christopher
Mm-hmm.
Guest, Eugene Levi, Fred Willard, Catherine O'Hara, Parker Posey, John Michael Higgins,
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Coolidge, Michael McKean, Jane Lynch, and many, many more.
Mm-hmm.
A, a very like amazing cast full of A-list people.
Yeah.
When you booked that movie,
Yes.
what were your like feelings and thoughts? You're like, oh my God, I booked this movie, Jennifer Coolidge.
When I auditioned for that, and it was shot here,
Mm-hmm.
I was told by my agent they're looking for improvisers.
Mm.
So you're gonna play this chef.
Yeah.
So I just want they want you to improvise something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go in there and it's, I'm a Second City guy and I know that. And Christopher Guest is there.
Mm.
And I had seen him around. I know who he is. Uh, and he says, okay, just do some thing. And so I do some shtick and whatever. And it's basically just the back and forth. There was a reader. I think Ellie Harvey was the reader, and
Mm.
she's an improviser too. And so we did some shtick and whatever, and it was fun. And I walked down like whatever, because at an improv, you don't know what's going to happen. And if you expect like the three people in the room to stand up and give you the waves of laughter, they're not
Yeah.
going to.
Mm-mm.
But apparently they thought, oh, he can do the job. And on the day, it was a much bigger scene than the final cut. It
Yeah.
was fun. It was funny. Um, and the funniest thing was when I got the script, it's like 20 pages.
Mm.
I should have kept it. Yeah, I wouldn't have had a hard copy. It was literally
Yeah.
just like what the scenes are going to look like
Mm.
in rough form.
Wow. So the
It
entire
was so
movie was
thin.
20 pages.
I
Wow.
could have been 15 now that I think about it. It was like, what?
Yeah. How is this going to be a movie? Yeah.
But you just turn and you just see they just had it mapped out with the overview of what's going to happen. So
Mm.
that means that everybody, not just Tony Alcantar, was just winging it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw it, my first thought was, oh, they didn't use that joke that I did. Oh, they didn't do the thing. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But when I saw the movie, my thought was, wow, that's you just need good people. But
Mm.
here's the irony, back to
Yeah.
David Mamet.
Mm-hmm.
David Mamet, excuse me, who says you should take an improv class.
Yeah.
Apparently, as a writer and a director, if he's writing a thing, he does not like you to improvise at all.
Mm.
Do you know that? He
No.
wants you to say exactly what he wrote on the page. He's
Mm.
already thought it out. You just say that thing. Trust me.
Mhm.
Just say it. It's gonna
Yeah.
work. It's gonna work. I already thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm, as an improviser, part of me wants to say, come on, that's a funny line.
Yeah.
Buddy, don't be so married to your thing.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, part of me says, back to what we said, the boss gets what the boss wants.
Yep.
Just give the boss what the boss wants. On
Hmm.
the other hand, the third hand, I have been on set,
Yeah.
and the writer will be on set, and the he'll she will be watching the thing, and there will be a made up line, and I'm following with my script. I got my headphones on, and I hear what's being said, and I look in it, and the line that's different is really funny, or
Mm,
it works, and I look over to the writer to see what the writer's thinking or saying.
yeah.
More often than not, nothing, because even the writer knows good work,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and when it works, it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't mean I see the value in both.
Yeah, of course. So with
Yeah,
second, or sorry, with best in show then,
yeah.
because my question also was going to be, but you kind of answered it, like, was there the everything written out how it's going to be, and then you do a couple takes of how the script is and then a few takes without, but it seemed like the entire thing really
Yeah.
was. And I read somewhere they had like 60 or 90 hours of footage, like some absurd amount of footage, and they had to really condense it into what it was. And I would like to see a
The
90-minute
rough cut.
movie of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe it would have been like that.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely believe it would have been like that. And the people, if you think about the talent,
Yeah.
you know that they could go on for a two-page scene. You know they could go on for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
A two-page scene should be 2 minutes.
Yep. Yep.
You know that they could go on for 5 minutes. They could double that easily.
Oh yeah. Yep.
There is an outtake. If you ever see the movie, here's another one that used a lot of improv. Bedazzled.
Okay.
Bedazzled. Um, who won the Oscar last year for Best Actor for the movie Whale?
Um,
You know that actor,
um, oh,
Brendan
what's
Fraser. Brendan
yes, Brendan
Fraser.
Fraser.
So he was in that movie,
Yeah.
and there's a number of improvising and comedy actors in that. Harold Ramis was the director, and I think he rewrote the screenplay.
Mm.
And in Bedazzled, at the end of the DVD outtakes,
Hmm.
special features, they have like a 5 minute improv of the two sports guys talking.
Mm.
If you can find it on YouTube,
Hmm.
Bedazzled Sports Outtake Improv or whatever,
Yeah.
it is so funny. You hear Harold Ramis laughing in their earpiece saying, "That's great, guys. Now talk about this." And they switch and they do that, and they're doing some physical stuff. It is hilarious. A
Mm.
seasoned improviser
Yeah.
can save your bacon
Hmm.
if you let them.
Hmm.
A this is bringing back a nightmare.
Oh no.
A not an immature and insecure director
Hmm.
will clamp down. I was in
Mm.
Speaking of Dan Castellaneta, he
Hmm.
came up here 20 years almost ago, and I was hired to be an actor in this made for TV movie.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen Dan since I was in Chicago.
Hmm.
This is before I had kids. And so my wife and I, we flew out to Victoria to shoot it.
Yeah.
And so I go, "Dan's here." I go, "Dan, Homer Simpson. I knew him in Chicago."
Mm.
So we're in the circus area, and I go, "Dan." He
Hmm.
turns and I go, "It's Tony Alcantar from Chicago." He's like, "Tony, what are you doing here?" Now
Hmm.
he's been Homer Simpson at this point for over 10 years.
Yep.
So we're talking, we're shooting the bull and all that stuff. We never talk about anything other than the people we knew in Chicago. We
Mm.
didn't talk about Homer Simpson because I didn't want to be Dan
Yeah.
Homer Simpson. No, he's Dan Castellaneta. He's a guy.
Mhm.
I when he and his wife were dating, they were dating in Chicago, and they got married out in LA, I imagine. Anyway,
Yeah.
we go out there on set. He's an improv guy. I'm an improv guy. We're doing a scene. The director is just sucking the comedy out of the room.
Mm.
And I'm thinking to myself, why isn't she letting us play?
Yeah.
I know it's a drama, but there's some irony in the scene.
Hmm.
And it was to me, the most stale performance I've ever done
Mm.
because I really wasn't allowed off the leash. Yes, give the boss what you want, what the boss wants.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm looking over there. Dan's there. I'm here. Come on, let us at least give us a couple takes for
Yeah. For
just to
fun.
see, just
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah. Well, switching gears a little bit, when
yeah,
it comes to getting a script that you know you need accent work for, whether it be standard American, British, Australian, whatever, how should people go about preparing their scene with the accent?
I say right away you've got to put the two together.
Mm,
You can't do the acting and then sprinkle the accent on top of it like it's sprinkles on a cupcake.
yeah.
It's got to be baked in like the eggs and the flour and the milk and
Yeah.
it is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's no other way around it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the director says, actually, you know what? Let's screw the accents. Then
Mm,
also prepare it a different way. See, this is the thing about actors. We have to be flexible.
yeah.
Another dialect coach may say, nope, do it one way because no, but immerse yourself and just be flexible for
Yeah.
both.
Okay.
And here's what I've even said to you.
Mm-hmm.
A good performance covers up a bad accent,
Mm-hmm.
but it also enhances the accent so it's not bad. So
Mm-hmm.
you always try to bake the two together right away.
Mm,
There's an expectation in an accent, as
mm-hmm.
I've probably told you. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing a British character, there is a stereotypical British character who every Brit and everyone in the world knows, yeah, that guy's probably British just by the way he behaves, or an Italian woman.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Do you know what I mean? Or
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah.
There is a reputation that precedes you.
Mm-hmm.
So play lightly the thing that's already known, put it together with the performance, but be flexible enough to back off of it. If
Mm.
I had a role, let's say where I was playing a New Yorker, let's say I don't know a New York accent, but I do.
Yeah.
I would, in preparation, I'd watch a couple now more than ever, just some YouTube clip of some actor who I like, who will serve as a role model and an inspiration. But
Mm.
don't watch some YouTube video on how to do a New York accent.
Okay. That's good
No, no, you immerse yourself in the character.
to know.
That's what it's about. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the character. It's not about the sound. The
Yeah.
sound is only like the backdraft of the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's how I would do it.
Yeah, that's good. Because, yeah, I didn't know if it was like you circle the words that you know have specific sounds or do all of that, which I'm sure you can do. But yeah, I guess it's like when you're finding your goal and you're doing your script work, you play it into the accent. Okay, where can people find you on social media or your website, IMDb, all of that?
Yeah, TonyAlcantar.com.
Mm-hmm.
And IMDb, I guess Tony Alcantar
Yeah.
also. Uh TonyAlcantar.com, info at TonyAlcantarDialect.com.
Mm.
And I think on Instagram, I think it's Tony Alcantar Dialect. There aren't a bunch of Tony Alcantars
No,
out
just
there.
search up Tony Alcantar, guys, and you'll find him. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so, so much for coming on and answering all my questions. It was so much
sure.
fun.